What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Bankroll Blitz. It's your boy, Brad Thomas. We got Prop Holiday and we have the very special Vaughn in the building, V Money Sports. How are you guys doing?
Good, man. Doing good.
Yeah, can't complain. Thanks for having me. Let's definitely get some winners. Last time I came on here, we had a couple, but I think we need some more.
Yeah, let's get some money going. So I'll start it off. You guys know I love my field goal props, so I'm going to start in the Steelers game here. When I was looking at this game, initially I wanted to back the Chargers field goal prop, right? I think that it's easy at first glance to find a team and just really go after them, but there was more value on the Chargers side. So if you think about this game, especially if Mason Rudolph plays, the Steelers' offense is not going to be efficient enough to convert when they get past the 50. And the Steelers have Chris Boswell back, who last weekend showed 3 for 3 last weekend that he was pretty accurate and helped a lot for that very bad offense. I know they came away with the tie, but we don't care who wins or loses. When you have a kicker who's kicking about 95%, and kicking 2.5 to 2.3 kicks per game, I like it a lot. And also, we have to kind of avoid that blowout situation. I don't think that the Chargers offense is prolific enough to get to that, 20-point lead where the Steelers aren't able to kick field goals. This is a Chargers team who's only averaging 24.5 points a game. And although the Steelers defense hasn't been the greatest, at least not living up to their reputation, they're good enough to kind of keep them around, or at least in a game where they're going to be kicking field goals instead of feeling like they're forced to go after touchdowns. So I think there's a lot of value in 2 field goals for the Steelers at plus 105.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That's a good angle attack. I haven't played a field goal prop in a long time, like probably touching 2 years. But if I was playing one, this sounds like a great one to me, to be honest with you. I'm a Steelers guy. I got the hat on, so obviously I know a lot about them. And my 2 plays in this game will definitely depend on whether or not Mason Rudolph is the quarterback, because, Mason Rudolph completely changed this offense in all respects, for better or for worse. Sometimes it's both, because Ben Roethlisberger, is at the end of his career. But What you need to know, all right, I've talked plentiful of Mike Tomlin against the spread, and he's been a 50% against the spread coach his entire career, especially versus teams with losing records. This is a team with a winning record, so the Steelers like to play up to competition. But with Rudolph in and it being Sunday Night Football, here's the key numbers. Sunday Night Football, the Steelers have not covered in 9 straight Sunday Night Football games. 9 straight. That includes against Geno Smith this season, if you guys remember that.
Yep, I remember that game.
So let's go back to 11 games. They've covered only once in the last 11, so we're talking 9%. Okay. The Steelers are not the team that we think they are. They win those games. They win a lot of games, but they don't cover a lot of spreads, and that's the problem. And when you look at them being as a road dog on those primetime games, there's been 10 of them. 8 of those times they failed to score more than 20 points. Now they insert Mason Rudolph against a Chargers team that has a stingy defense, can certainly get some pressure against the worst offensive line Ben Roethlisberger's ever had in his career. So I'll be playing the first half under 23.5 and the minus 5.5 for the Chargers. I love both these plays. Like I said, the trend speaks to itself that you just have to continue to ride that until the wheels fall off when the Steelers are Sunday Night Football. And that's an NBC one too. So of course I have pleasure in betting that one, fading my own team in, working for NBC. But the first half under, I will say, has hit 2 or 3 times this year already for the Steelers when they're on the road. But the key factor is every single game Mason Rudolph has started on the road this year, not one first half has gone over 20 points. So this is all on the Chargers. They have to score the 17 or 20 here, in my opinion, if Mason Rudolph starts. So play the first half under as well and get it before the line changes.
Man, I love that. Heck yeah.
Now, what do we know about Bosa? Wasn't Bosa's in COVID protocol?
Yeah.
So, him and Micah Fitzpatrick are both in COVID protocol. That's obviously important news when you're betting any under. Now, with that being said, the Chargers are facing what might be the easiest offensive line of the season. Like I said, this is the worst offensive line of Ben Roethlisberger's career, hands down. And it's shown this season. And, if you're outside of Najee Harris right now and Deontay Johnson with a mix of James Washington just because Rudolph is starting, you don't have anything going on. So I'm still okay with playing the under, even if Bosa is out. Fitzpatrick more than likely be out as well. And that's okay because the Steelers' defense is still, like I said, respectable in a lot of ways.
Yeah, no, this Chargers defense, led by Brandon Staley, very very bend but don't break, kind of the Wade Phillips mentality that that he came from. They do a very good job of defending the edges of the field, but they give up the middle of the field a lot. But so you're not going to see as much of it. Not that the Pittsburgh offense really had a lot of explosive plays, but if they were, I don't think this was the team that we're going to see it against. So I definitely love the first half under, and obviously I think the line opened at something like 3.5 or 4. Now it's at 5.5. So
insane.
Yeah,
see where it's trending.
No, it's a surprising thing, a chart to look at. The Chargers allow so many field goals per games, but when you have a defensive minded coach, he's very prone to not letting guys in the end zone. It's okay that if your defense gives up yardage and they get closer to the red zone, but you got to make sure once they get in that red zone, you're not giving up touchdowns, which makes the under so much more valuable.
Yep.
Agreed. I like it.
Awesome. So you have a play for us, Bobby, in the Cincinnati game. Why don't you lay that one on us?
Of course. I'm going with Mr. Joe Burrow, over 268.5 passing yards. It's minus 115. He's playing the Raiders this week. Shocked to see this low. So he's averaging 277 yards per game passing, so well below his season average. And the Raiders secondary is struggling. Obviously, we saw it last week against the Chiefs. They've got a rookie in there, and I think his name is Brandon Fasason. And they've got a vet, Desmond Trufant, who are playing significant snaps. Shocked to see Desmond Trufant still in the league, if we're being completely honest. I feel like he's been around for a while. And the Raiders last week, I think the story of that game is they really struggled to get pressure on Patrick Mahomes. Now you have to hold that coverage for even longer, and you can't do that against the Chiefs. I think Joe Burrow is one of the better young quarterbacks in this league. So to get this line against a team that's not getting a lot of pressure lately, against a secondary that's kind of in flux, and it's below his season average, I'm loving Burrow at over 268.5 passing yards.
Yeah, I like this play a lot too. That was actually one of the player props. I haven't finalized my player prop card, but to be honest, this will likely be on it.
Mm-hmm.
I bet Mahomes last week Sunday Night Football and obviously cashed on that one. You saw the change in what the Raiders have done, because they've done well against those Teddy Bridgewaters and those quarterbacks that like to dink and duck like Big Ben, but it changed. So yeah, I could see that. The NBC model has him at 300 yards, so clearly got him to run that one.
I think prop bet guy was on this. He was he's not. I'm sorry, he wasn't on this. He was over on T. Higgins on the yards. But he made a good point about the zone versus man scheme. If you're playing that zone defense, you're giving up a lot of everything in front of you, and you're not giving up the big play, so it doesn't favor Jamar Chase. But I think he's going to eat up a lot of things in front of him, the underneath routes, the slants, things like that. So Joe Burrow, 268.5. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm again shocked to see it open up less than his season average against this team.
Yeah, I like that one. Awesome. Listen, so I've been doing pretty poor in Operation Fade, lost my last two. I wanted to try a new approach for Operation Fade. This time I looked up the highest bet totals, and probably not to anybody's surprise, the highest bet totals are overs. Almost every single public bet was an over. So the top four I'll go through the list really fast. Bengals at Raiders over 52 was getting 82% of the public action. Saints at Eagles over 43 was getting 77% of the public action. Giants at Bucks over 49.5. That's 76%. In the game that I'm going to be looking at, Dallas Cowboys at the Kansas City Chiefs over 56.5, 72% of the action. Listen, a lot of times when the public bets, what they do is they just look at the numbers, look at two teams and say, boy, that's going to be an over game. And honestly, when I was taking my notes down, going over the games, what I wrote down on my paper, the very first thing I wrote down, Dallas Cowboys, Kansas City Chiefs, over. Question mark, exclamation point, because I thought this would be a home run. I was like, I looked up every single angle to find a reason why I would play the over. I looked up, I was like, oh, Dallas is averaging 32 points per game. Chiefs are averaging 27 points per game. Both are allowing over 24 points per game. But really, when you start to look at those numbers, both teams are trending up in the defensive direction. So Dallas about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago was number 8 in defensive efficiency. Now they're number 4 in defensive efficiency and number 5 in defense overall. And Kansas City, man, they've had probably the biggest defensive turnaround the past 3 weeks. They're only allowing 12 points per game. And so I was like, let's see if these numbers are just numbers or are there trends to back it up. So I went to the trend section and I was looking at how are each teams on over-under teams. Both are 50% over-under, but we're getting minus 105 odds. And for trends that over-unders versus Dallas as a road dog, 1 and 2 to the under, non-conference 1 and 2 to the under. Well, how is Kansas City as a home favorite? Well, 2 and 3 to the under and 1 and 3 in non-conference games for them. And also one thing, this Kansas City team that a lot of people haven't really paid much attention to is at home, they're averaging less points than on the road because I think they know that they can pin their ears back, and it's going to be a tough stadium for any road team to play in. So I really like that there. It was going to be a play whether it was Operation Bait or not, and it kind of aligned. So I'm going to be the brave guy who's taking an under in a Chiefs game.
Obviously, the stats back it up, but it also plays into what could be a successful game script for the Cowboys. If you're playing the Chiefs, you do not want to see Dak Prescott, exchanging touchdowns with Patrick Mahomes. You want to keep him off the field. They have Pollard, they have Zeke. You're going to want to run the ball and just keep that Andy Reid offense off of the field as much as possible. Chew up that clock. So I think obviously the numbers support it, but a game script also would support this if it's successful for Dallas.
Yeah.
I would love to go back and see all the games that have the highest totals in the NFL every week and how often the over is actually hitting those games.
Yes.
Because I doubt it would be very successful. And I know for college football, I like to fade teams that have the 70s, the 80s. There's too high of numbers. And this could be a certainly type of number like that in the NFL too, because Mahomes has been turnover prone this year. And Prescott certainly has never escaped that in his career either. So I could see the under hitting.
One thing that this game kind of reminds me of, and I heard someone say this, the Chiefs are kind of trending towards what Tampa Bay was doing last year, where, a lot of expectations really on in the season, and they really weren't living up to them, especially defensively, getting Todd Bowles as your coach. You have JPP on the outside with Shaq Barrett. But now the Chiefs are doing a very similar model where you can start to see their defense is tightening up a bit. And I like that towards the under a lot more when you have a team who's just starting to get sound. Now, we just don't want Mahomes to go crazy and Dak to go crazy and think they're just going to have this big time shootout. But I'm willing to take that chance with a total set at 56.
I like it. I'm going to start both those guys in fantasy, so I'll say good luck to you either way. But another play that I like a lot is going to be in a game that nobody's going to want to watch. It's going to be the Lions at the Browns. And when I say rain, 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 go away, that's what Tim Boyle's going to want to say. All right, it's supposed to be 70% chance or higher the entire game, kickoff through the fourth quarter. So obviously that's going to be tough for a quarterback who's making his first NFL start of his career, more than likely. And then he's also came back to practice last week. All right, so this guy hasn't played since the preseason. He's shaken off his rust in practice the end of last week, and now he's getting the word that he's probably going to be starting in Cleveland against Myles Garrett. And guess what? He's also going to be down his best tackle in Taylor Decker. Matt Nelson did come back, could help them if he does play, but they're also going to be down. They're trying to move on from the kicker. They signed 2 kickers. So right now it's looking like the Detroit Lions just have no hope. So I'm going to play the under 15.5 team total for the Lions. I'd play it down to the 14.5. I think they're going to struggle to get 2 touchdowns in this one. This is more like a touchdown and a field goal type of game. Anything extra for them would be an incentive because when you're going against Myles Garrett in this defensive front, you're down lineman, you're at a backup quarterback now, and this quarterback only played with 3 receivers that are no longer active on the Lions roster right now. So when you're talking about Khalif Raymond, Armon St. Brown, and Josh Reynolds, he has no rapport with those guys outside of practice this week. So it's going to be interesting for Tim Boyle in his first start in Cleveland in the rain. Certainly like the Browns, who think they're going to probably just pound the Lions. So I'll happily take the team total under and sit back and just hold my nose in that one.
Yeah, no, I mean, as a former Ram, I'm very familiar with Jared Goff. Oh no, I'm sorry, you were saying
Tim Boyle will likely start
for
Jared Goff. Jared Goff has the oblique injury, and he's supposed to more than likely be out. And I'm sure he will be out because at this point, why even start him?
Yeah, and it's like you mentioned, it's easily the worst wide receiver core in the league. Probably going to see a lot of Swift, but it's going to be ugly. That's the story of the entire Lions season. It's an ugly one. So the rain, the quarterback, you nailed it.
This was a game where I looked at a field goal for the Lions for an under to try to get a good enough price, like a plus 250, but the price wasn't sitting high enough to take that chance. So, I mean, It was a game that I was pretty sure that they might get shut out. And then trying to kick field goals through that's going to be even tougher. So I like this look a lot because I don't see them scoring I don't see them making 2 field goals, and I definitely don't see them scoring 2 touchdowns. So it's a pretty good recipe there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome. Let's go over to the Texans. Nice. A play from the Texans.
Oh, gosh.
So, yeah, no, you guys know me. I by now you figure out every week there's a Zag play. There's something that nobody looks into. Why would you bet that? This week, I'm on Tyrod Taylor over 22.5 rushing yards versus the Titans. Now, Taylor has hit this in 2 of 3 starts this season. He's averaging 9.7 yards per carry, essentially. He's coming off the bye week. It's giving him more time to get healthy from that hamstring injury that happened in week 2. And the Titans defense is averaging 4 attempts per game to opposing quarterbacks as far as rushes. I have Taylor pegged at about 36 yards this game. I do think the game is going to get out of hand. That means a lot of deep routes playing catch up. When the deep routes don't come to fruition and coverage is there, you see a lot of quarterbacks tuck it and run. And that's where you're looking to pick up those first downs. So again, shocked to see this line at 22.5, considering what he is averaging from a yards per carry standpoint. And with the game script expecting to get out of hand against the Titans. Tyrod Taylor, he's a journeyman in this league. Everything I've read about this team, they still support him. They love him. They're confident in him. And he's a guy who doesn't throw in the towel. I do see him tucking it and running it a couple times. And again, the bye week helps. Having that healthy, getting a little bit healthier with that hamstring. So 22.5, I love this line for a game that could get out of hand.
I like that. The bye week certainly helps too. Sneaky play. I mean,
Yeah.
Tyrod Taylor. If that's the way to play Tyrod Taylor, that's the only way to play Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, I think the last time I did a Texans prop was Brandon Cook's receptions was at 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago.
R.I.P.
Man, it was terrible.
I mean, so he's at 5. Brandon Cooks this week's over 5.5 at plus 100. Tyrod Taylor loves him as far. I mean, I have this. So, putting together my article for Dimers, Brandon Cooks reception is going to be one of it. I'm not going to go too much detail on it here, but that's really their offense. It's Tyrod Taylor if he's doing anything with his legs, and Brandon Cook is going to get a ton of targets. I think he saw something like 14 last week, or I'm sorry, not last week, the week before. So Taylor has his guy, and it's Cooks.
Yeah, I know. I definitely remember that. I was just like, stop sailing the ball over Cook's head, or dang, Cooks dropped it. It's like he was getting the targets, he just wasn't bringing them in that game.
Bye week will help.
Yeah, for sure. Get that timing back. I'm going to go over to my 2-team teaser. The Rams let me down 2 weeks in a row for teasers.
You and me both.
I can't believe it, but I'm become a believer in the 49ers with their defense starting to get healthy. But I'm going to start on the first leg of my teaser. It's going to be Colts, brings it up to 13.5. So I wrote a game script A and a game script B, and both have a lot to do with Carson Wentz. If we get a subpar Carson Wentz, I think that this game finishes as a Bills 10-point win. If we get this is a really good Carson Wentz, I think the Bills still find a way to win it, but it's going to be one of those really ugly, low-scrapping games. So I was listening to Warren Sharp say something that was pretty impressive and made me wanted to dig into the Bills a lot more. For you guys definitely know how much I love backing team totals, and Bills is a team that I like to back team totals and live team totals. And one thing that I really noticed is, they're having troubles establishing the run, and they've struggled against top defenses. Well, they've only played 2 of those top defenses, and both those games they were god-awful and lost. Now they're playing against a 10th-ranked Colts team. Well, this Colts team, I don't think they're going to be as dominant as that Steelers game, but I think that it gives Carson Wentz a little bit more faith in himself. Like if you think about when at his time in Philly, they didn't have the best defense after that Super Bowl run, obviously. They didn't have the best defense, and the offensive line was really terrible. Now you have a good defense backing you up and a good offensive line. Carson went from a guy who was more of like a 17-10 guy to now this season he's at 17 already and 17-3. Only 3 interceptions on the year because he's getting protection, and it always helps to have a bell cow like Jonathan Taylor with 937 rushing yards. I think the Bills could win this by double digits, but I would be hard pressed to pass up on the value of getting 13.5 for the Colts. So that's leg 1. And leg 2, I am a believer in the 49ers after watching their defensive onslaught. And one thing that the reason I faded them because I didn't think they'd be as healthy as they have been or they'd come back. I think that we see a Jags team here that we expected Trevor Lawrence to, take the league by storm, and they haven't quite done that yet. it's going to be one of those games. It kind of reminds me of when I was watching Josh Freeman in Tampa Bay. He had his moments, and a lot of people were fairly high on him. And they played a good defense in the Ravens. And I think the Ravens ended up going out to a 30-point lead in the first half. I think that the 49ers have that ability because Deebo Samuel's finally starting to be utilized as much as he possibly can. I don't like that the running back room is as banged up as it is, but when you have a guy with the speed of Deebo Samuel who, can take jet sweeps, who can also blow you deep, I like that a lot against a Jags team who I don't think stands a chance in this game.
Ooh, yeah, that's going to be one heck of a game. I know some people were betting the Jaguars to cover that spread, and like I said, I mean, you would think the Niners have to come out and beat the Jaguars after what they just did. The NFL is so wonky. I certainly think the Niners win, but I would be scared to lay 7 with them. But I think the money line's a much better play. As for the Colts one, I hope you win, but as you know, I'm on the Bills -7. So this was my blitzing the board play. Actually on NBC's show. And while you made some really good points, I had the counter argument with some of those. The Colts themselves are really going to prove whether or not they are what we think they are or what some people think they are. Because to me, I don't think they're all that, because 4 of their last 5 games, they've been at home. And in those home games, they played Jacksonville, they played the Jets, the Texans, the Niners, and then the Titans were the other game they played. So 4 of their 5 games there at home, and then that was the 5-game stretch that they played. They should be 4-1 in those games, arguably 5-0 because the one game I did bet the Colts, they lost. So that's hilarious. But the Bills themselves, against the spread at home in the last 8, they are 6-1-1 against the spread. They only pushed because if you got the Dolphins +15, you got lucky, but really everyone got -14 in that game. So really they're 7-1 ATS in their last 8 and won all 7 of those games by 10 or more points. The only game they lost in that stretch was against the Steelers week 1, and that was the best time to catch a Bills team, in my opinion. So I'm looking at that. Then the Colts in the last 10 on the road, they've covered 7 times. They've done really well. But when you look at the guys, the best quarterbacks they've played outside of Lamar Jackson have been Big Ben and Baker Mayfield. And I'm not really too in tune with that one. This is going to be the toughest game for the Colts on the road in a long time. And their injury report right now doesn't look too great with Leonard, Buckner, Rhodes. I know Eric Fisher and Jack Doyle are also on the injury report. So seeing those guys moving forward will be a lot for this bet, because if those guys, aren't playing or limited, I certainly would love the Bills -7 in the spot. I've already played them, but depending on how much I want to play more up to that, it depends on the injury report right now.
I did a margin of victory projection for this game, utilizing the Colts average margin of defeat, Bills average margin of victory, put those two together, and it landed somewhere like 8.5. So I think that an 8.5 point win wins both of our bets, which was like, when I do teasers, I try not to play like that. I try to take the team who has every opportunity to win the game and cover the spread. But I just had to kind of look at that value and trust the numbers there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can't argue. Jonathan Taylor, he's been amazing. And if the running backs get, I think it was 16 or more carries against the Bills this year, they're like 3-1 or something random. I heard Sarah Perlman say, but I do know when the Colts get 100-yard rushers, they've been killing it this year. And the Bills are not that good when they can't stop somebody. See Derrick Henry, for example. So.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and my my touchdown prop for our parlay is going to contradict everything I said about their defense, but you'll hear it soon.
I will, if I can. I will say something about the Colts. 3 of their losses this year came to the Rams, the Ravens, and the Titans. All could, obviously playoff teams. They played the Rams, they lost by 3. They played the Ravens, they lost in overtime. They played the Titans, they lost by 3 in overtime. They're a team that is, they can be hot and cold, but they are playing up to their level of competition. They have been given the 3 teams I just made, they gave them hell. So I do like the 13.5 that you have on the Colts side. And I don't know if anybody caught this. Carson Wentz to throw 2 touchdowns, I think is plus 140. And he went on a stretch, like an 8-week stretch, or I'm sorry, a 7-week stretch where he threw 2 touchdowns consecutively. Now you're getting this at plus money. So something I'm going to throw in my Dimers article, but no, definitely good on the teaser side, man. As far as the Niners, I will say this. Shanahan has McVay's number.
He does.
plays into it. Part of the reason why the Niners looked so well last week. But yeah, getting it down to -0.5, they should have no problem beating the Jags.
Yeah, I try not to spoil my my touchdown parlay notes that I have here, but I'm very excited about this Bills game. All right, so probably the biggest storyline of the NFL is Cam Newton's return to Carolina. We have Cam Newton playing Carolina, Mark Ingram playing in New Orleans, and Randall Cobb in Green Bay. But I can't help but look at props, and in that game, I leaned 3.5 for the Panthers. But I know that you have a prop from that game that you really like.
I do. And playing into that Cam Newton piece, obviously he's playing Ron Rivera again. Christian McCaffrey over 5.5 receptions at +115. I like this for half a unit. So last week, McCaffrey was back, targeted 10 times for 10 receptions. He's hit this line in 2 of 4 games this season that he played the entire game, so 50% hit rate, and I'm getting it at plus odds. So I went back to 2019. I looked at Cam and McCaffrey together. McCaffrey hit this number in 11 of 16 games with Cam at quarterback. All indications are Cam is going to start, and I expect him to target his safety net. He's never really been, at least over the last 2 seasons, we saw him in New England. He's not pushing the ball down the field. He's not really unloading it. He's more of a dump-off short guy at this point in his career, and I think that favors McCaffrey very well. So over 5.5, and it is plus odds for his buddy, which, for me, it's worth half a unit to roll with this in the Ron Rivera game.
Yeah. I like that angle. I mean, can never argue with Christian McCaffrey's over, especially when it's receptions. But Cam Newton aspect, I can certainly get down with it then. Yeah,
absolutely. Let's go and end this with our touchdown parlay here. Didn't have one last week, so I'm excited to talk about it this time.
All right. I'll kick it off with my guy. I'm going to go with Dalvin Cook. All right, so obviously it's probably the safest pick out of all these ones that we're going to name on here. But there's no shame in that on my end because Dalvin Cook has scored 4 straight times against the Green Bay Packers. In the last game, he actually had 4 touchdowns, which is ridiculous. But when you just look at it, he's had 6 rushing touchdowns in his last 3, and then he's had 2 receiving touchdowns in his last 4 against the Packers. So if you like the 2 touchdown odds as well, Dalvin Cook seems like a pretty safe bet to get that done on Sunday.
I'll jump in with my Jalen Waddle pick. So we got Tua Tagovailoa back in the lineup through week 6, 7, and 8, where he was entrenched as the starter, finally healthy, really stringing together some performances. Waddle saw 13 targets, 8 targets, and 11 targets from Tua. Clearly his favorite option, and he had 2 touchdowns in that span. This Jets secondary, easily the worst unit on the team. They lost Marcus May 2 weeks ago to IR. So I like Waddle to get a bunch of targets in a game that should be, I'm assuming, a blowout with Joe Flacco at quarterback on the other end. But Waddle either takes one deep or they get him on a slant and he takes off because he really is he's a hell of a playmaker for that team.
I love it.
Waddle was a play that I was looking at for a touchdown prop. So I'm glad you add there because we haven't had that huge Waddle play yet this season, and this is no better team to do it against. So I think it's a good spot for plus 135. For mine, I have Stephon Diggs. Listen, I told you I was going to contradict myself a bit here because now I'm going to talk about how bad the secondary for the Colts has been. You get a guy in Rock Ya-Sin and Xavier Rhodes who, we don't know the availability there, but you get guys who are supposed to be lockdown corners. They haven't been anything but lockdown corners. They have allowed 6 touchdowns between each when they're directly targeted. And the Colts have allowed the most receiving touchdowns, 15, to wide receivers this season. I was kind of trending towards Emmanuel Sanders, but Emmanuel Sanders hasn't really had that breakout red zone target game yet. I would rather go to more like a Cole Beasley guy. But one guy who's getting the targets, whether that's deep balls or red zone, is Stephon Diggs. And at minus 108 is a good enough price where regardless of who's covering him, he's going to get that target. And I think that oh my goodness, I'm drawing a blank right now. I think that the Bills have the opportunity to score a lot of points in this game. And the reason why I like the Colts plus the 13 is because I think we get somewhat of a shootout brewing between the two teams. In any game, you have a lot of opportunities to score touchdowns. It's good to take touchdown players from that game.
Over under set at 49.5. Generally, if I'm trying to target, with certain exceptions, if I'm trying to target touchdown, look for anything over 45, 46. You start getting into that 5-6 touchdown expectation. So now, man.
And then I'm 100% going CeeDee Lamb here. 6 touchdowns on the season. He is freaking ice. This guy's probably one of the best route runners I've seen in a very long time. And, it's kind of crazy because tracking CD from the media perspective, they have days where they're saying CeeDee Lamb's not living up to the billing, and then days where they think CeeDee Lamb's a god. I think that when his ability to run routes and his hands are massive, just give him the ball and give him opportunity against the Chiefs. I don't care if they only score 1 touchdown. I know CeeDee Lamb is going to have his chance to get into the end zone.
Yeah, I like that. And the little tidbit I'll say about Dallas fans and the media saying stuff about him. My brother's a Cowboys fan. That's just how they are. So
yeah,
CeeDee Lamb's all right.
Yeah,
he's doing all right. I love it. Those are 4 great plays. I mean, I'm playing them all.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think all those guys, there's sharp angles on all 4 of them to find the end zone, or at least have a chance to find the end zone. So I like them playing them together. Playing them separate, all I think would be profitable as well.
Yeah, I mean, when you're taking $25 and get a chance to win 380, all you need is a seat at the table. If everyone has a chance, we got it. Hey, well, Vaughn, I want to thank you, man, for joining this episode. It's been a pleasure. If you guys want to follow Vaughn on Twitter, that's at VMoneySports. If you want to follow me, at Mr. Brad Thomas. If you want to follow Bobby, it's at Prop Holiday, 2 L's, and follow Bankroll Blitz at Bankroll Blitz. And if you're watching on YouTube, press the like and subscribe button. Be sure to download the podcast. Everyone have a great weekend, and let's win a ton of bets.
Take care, guys.